Welcome, everybody. Joe Tarnowski with ECRM here, and I have with me Ahmad Rafai he's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Savia, which is a beverage company, and he is not only a Range Me Premium verified member, but he's also participated in ECRM's supplier introductions and our virtual sessions. And so today, what we're going to get into is a lot of his history, because he's had kind of like what I call what is referred to as the hero's journey, starting small, facing adversity, trying to get bigger and succeeding. So we're going to talk a little bit about how he really started off working with the community-based smaller retailers, and then how he's been leveraging RangeMe and ECRM to really get into those larger mass retailers. So, Ahmad, thank you so much for joining us. And to start off, could you give everybody a quick overview of your company and your products?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a very fun and interesting experience with ECRM, I have to say. A big learning curve, but, nothing that we weren't, we knew what we were getting ourselves into, and we're really happy with the experience so far. So, as Joe mentioned, I'm Ahmad with Savia USA. Savia is a national beverage company that was actually founded by my father, and I stepped in pretty much right out of college. And we are, in a nutshell, a national beverage company and that imports and distributes our own brand of beverage. And we have a network of wholesalers and distributors that distribute that we sell to, that kind of handle that distribution for our products.
And can you take us through the lineup of products?
Yeah, so our hero product, which is where this company, kind of started, was our aloe vera drinks. If you've ever had those square bottles with the chunks of aloe vera floating around in them, we were one of the first companies to actually bring it into the US back when people didn't even know you can drink aloe vera drinks. We kind of paved that way. We were at those trade shows convincing people to try the textured drink, right? And everyone was looking at me sideways. But it was fun kind of being the pioneer of this industry, one of the pioneers of this segment. Nowadays, it's a very well-known segment. Pretty much every store you go into has one brand of aloe vera drink, either our brand or another brand. So that's kind of where it all started for us, is the aloe vera drinks. It's kind of what paved the way and grew us, to where we are today. And then in the past few years, we've rolled out a few kind of products that I guess you could say complement the aloe vera drink on the shelf. The goal was to make a product portfolio that kind of sits all together in similar spaces on the shelf. So in the recent years, we've added coconut water, we've added coconut milk drink, which has been a phenomenon for us, one of our most successful products to date. I would say my second best product behind the aloe vera drink. We do fruit juice cans. We have other stuff in the pipeline that I'm excited to roll out this year, like wellness and innovation beverages, energy drinks that have unique twists to the industry. Really, our goal is to always look at the segments, say what is the segment missing, and what can we bring to each beverage segment that the current players aren't doing today. And that's kind of how our thought process when we innovate and bring in new products.
So, in your journey, right, since you've been with the company, primarily in the beginning, you started off with smaller community-based retailers. Could you talk a little bit about what it was like dealing with them? Because dealing with them is a lot different than dealing with the mass retailers, which we'll get into afterwards.
Oh, I mean, it's a totally different world. The core of our business and how we started was with these independent markets, these independent distributors and independent store owners. And I will say it's very informal. It's almost like you're dealing with an uncle or a relative of some sort, because they'll call you at 8 o'clock at night to send you an order. And on a Saturday, Sunday, doesn't matter what day of the week, you could be at your wedding, and they'll be calling you saying, "Hey, I need an order. Can I send you this?" And they'll text it to your personal number instead of your email. So I will say it's very informal, but just like any industry, it definitely, I guess you could say, you can adapt to it very quickly. I mean, we were used to it. So I had my phone on me 24/7. Anytime it rung, I knew it was one of the customers. You just get used to it, and you know what to expect. And it's kind of all we knew at a certain point growing into this company when we first started. We were definitely a huge, I would say almost all of our business was in the independent market. Yeah.
So now, were you these are usually top to top meetings, right? You're dealing with the owner, you're dealing, and these are, how small are these chains? One, two, three
I mean,
stores?
they vary. You'll be surprised. Some of them can be very big. Some of the independent distributors we've been dealing with for over 10 years now. Some of them are $100 million plus companies now. They grew over the years, but a lot of them do start small. Most of them start small, and you're typically, I'll say one thing that's nice about dealing with the independent market is that decisions are made very quickly. I mean, from the day you meet them, you can agree on pricing and agreements and everything within the week. Within a couple of days, you can get them up and running, and they'll pull an order by the end of the week. Sometimes we've had customers pull their order from the day we've met them to the order the next day. So and that's what I was in for a surprise to learn, that in the big box retail space, it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
But I will say that is definitely one thing about the independent market that stands out when you compare it to other realms of this industry.
But so you were already successful in the independent market. So, so you were just looking to expand, and what made you decide to start going after the mass retailers, and how did you first start going about it?
It was intimidating at first, I'll be honest, because all we knew was the independent market. My father, the founder of this company, and my partner and CEO, when we started this company, we were actually owners of an independent distribution company ourselves. And we saw the opportunity for the beverage space, and that's kind of how we got started. And it was very intimidating because, you see these giants that you and I shop at every day. You have your Walmarts of the world and your Kroger's of the world and all these huge accounts, and it's almost like you feel very small sometimes as a person when you think of doing business with somebody like this, right? So, but you come to find out after, especially through my ECRM experience, that they're just regular people, and they have offices that they go into, and they want to make money just like you do, and it's not as daunting as it seems at all. Actually, it's very, and that's something that I tell people all the time when they ask me what it's like doing business with some of these big guys. And we're still growing, but really how we got started in this whole space was, like any company, we wanted to grow. We're looking at, where we are today and where we want to be in a few years. And we felt like our product portfolio really could do well in the retail space. I mean, the pharmacy space, like all the places that sell beverage, right? Because we're a shelf-stable beverage. So pretty much we would think to ourselves, well, why can't our beverage be, where every other shelf-stable beverages and all these other channels of distribution? So that's kind of how we got started. And really, it's a funny story. Our first retailer that picked us up was Walmart. And the way it worked is actually we had no idea how to get a hold of them. We were very intimidated by that whole industry. We were just kind of in the independent business. We were looking to grow in the independent business, and we get a call one day, and guy doesn't say where he's from, doesn't say who he is, calls and asks for some pricing. So we send him pricing, and he calls back and says, no, that's not going to work. I need better pricing. So, we revise his pricing, and he calls back and says, look, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. He goes, I'm with Walmart, and they handpicked your brand. So I'm really on a whim here. I can't go back without your brand. So you got to help me out here. And we told him, well, why didn't you just say so from the beginning? I mean, we were more than happy to accommodate. And that's kind of how we got started with that relationship with Walmart. And they have us in about, I believe, 1,800 stores today out of their 3,000 or 4,000. But we noticed right away the difference. I mean, and it's like this. Let me put it this way. It takes a long time to get going with them, with these big guys. But we noticed that once they're ready to take off, you better buckle your seatbelt, because it's just nuts the way they operate, how fast they operate, and volume wise. I mean, we're used to, we went from a realm of having these small guys pulling 3-4 pallets at a time to these giants coming in, cleaning out our warehouse. It's nuts. It was nuts. And
it's a little, you have to be a lot more buttoned up. It's not like you're calling them on a cell phone and saying, hey, what do you need?
Oh yeah, we went from mailing, mailing letters for accounts receivable to EDI, and we had to go through the whole crash course of EDI, and it was, I will say this, it was definitely a challenging transition period in the beginning, because it was just a lot of information happening at once. All of a sudden we have to be invoicing electronically, which we've never done before. We have to be like you said, more buttoned up in a sense of like, you know, office hours have to be from a certain time to a certain time, and we have to make sure we're, you know, we have somebody attentive to the phone and have somebody attentive to the email. So it forced us to grow. It forced us to really, you know, we were never really all over the place before, but we were an independent business. So it's what we were used to. So we were kind of accommodated to that day-to-day lifestyle of an independent business. And then that really forced us to, it gave us no choice of, look, you deal with an account like this, you have to be able to accommodate their needs. And that's kind of how, you know, we just rolled with it. Honestly, we got on EDI, on all this electronic invoicing. We expanded our office. We hired somebody to just be, you know, on email and phones. So it definitely pushed us in the right direction towards growth, you know?
Yeah, you have to have some sort of an infrastructure in place now to handle it.
Yeah. Overnight, we built that infrastructure.
And you know what I think is cool is that I'm sure that deal kind of got you over the imposter syndrome of, you know, like not being ready to deal with the majors.
Oh yeah, and it didn't really hit us until that first order. When they came and took that first order, it was, you know, a full truckload of our product, and it hit us saying, okay, well, we're in the big leagues now. And it did kind of get you over that hump of oh, these guys are giants, and these guys are, you know, people that we'll never deal with. It definitely pushed us past that mentality that we're too small to deal with these guys. And we realize, I mean, when you have a good product portfolio, and believe me, we really do stand behind our products. When we develop these products, our product portfolio we have today, every single product we've spent months and months on formulation, because we believe we wouldn't bring in or sell anything that we wouldn't buy off the shelf ourselves. You know? So I really do believe we have a fantastic product portfolio, and we were handpicked, you know, in that review by Walmart. They asked for us because we had a lot of independent distribution, never any of the big guys. And I don't know how we came across that buyer's desk, but I'm thankful we did, because he really liked how our product tastes compared to the other products that he was trying.
And you're in a really sweet spot. I mean, with healthy beverages right now, it's a big thing. So, so with all that, right? So now that I'm sure that piqued your interest in getting more mass distribution.
Yeah.
How did you go about that, and where did RangeMe and ECRM kind of fit into that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, you know, when we started working with you know, Walmart, we got a taste for what it's like to play with the big boys. And to be honest, it was nice. We liked it. Obviously, it's a lot. You have to be much more like I mentioned, buttoned up, and it comes with its own certain you know, responsibilities. But at the end of the day, it was definitely more rewarding than anything. So we set out on a mission that year. The following year, we said, okay, at the beginning of the year, we sat down at our annual meeting and we said, okay, how do we get into more retail space? Well, clearly the product works, thankfully. It sells in the big boxes, which was always a doubt in our mind of, oh, I wonder if it'll do well with the big guys. And it was doing well. So we figured, okay, well, this is selling. It's working. So, you know, we are good enough. And we set out to, we didn't know how to do it, because technically with Walmart, they called us, right? We had no experience on how to get into these stores. Still, even after being in Walmart, we think that we had no experience.
So as far as how to find the buyers, how to engage with them, okay.
Yeah, no clue. So, and that's kind of how we started our ECRM journey, is I remember for a couple nights in a row of that week, at the beginning of the year, 2 years ago, I was just Googling, you know, how to get into big box retail contact list. I remember I spent maybe 3 or 4 hours just researching how to do this. And then I came across RangeMe, and that's kind of how I entered this whole realm. I actually went to, I forgot which retailer it was at the time. I found their vendor portal, and it said, enter your product today. So I click it, and it took me to RangeMe. And that's kind of how I found RangeMe. So it said create a profile. I walked through the profile steps, and that's kind of how I started with this whole realm of ECRM, RangeMe. And I followed the steps. I set up my profile, uploaded my photos, and the next day I noticed, you know, it said a buyer from Publix has viewed your profile, and that sparked something in me, saying, wow, like this is the first step in the right direction. A buyer from Publix looked at my profile. I'm on the radar. And I remember wanting more, saying, okay, well, how can I take this to the next level? So I fully optimized the page. I uploaded all the products, took nice photos, and then I noticed there was that verification process. It said, the little pop-up came saying, hey, you want more buyers to see your profile? Get verified. And I noticed as I was looking through, all the big brands were verified. So thankfully, we were a legitimate business. We had all the documentation needed to be verified. So I remember reaching out to Range Me at the time, the rep that had emailed me, and I said, hey, how do I get verified? He sent me a bullet point list. I sent him everything that he needed, and then within a couple of weeks, we were verified. And that's kind of really boosted our momentum big time. We started getting, all of the Albertsons, the Costco's of the world, all of them were looking at our profile. I could see in the profile insights. So it definitely was, another step in the right direction. We were getting messages from the buyers saying, hey, send me samples, and the traction began, and really, that's where it all started.
Excellent. And just for people who may not be familiar, when you mentioned that you saw it on another retailer's website, RangeMe does the inbound product submission forms for most of the major retailers.
Yeah.
So like Ahmad said, if you go to their site, the retailer site, and you click the link to submit your product to be considered, RangeMe handles the back end of that. And then on the premium and verified, to get verified, that's part of the premium membership. Yeah. And they just validate, they make sure that you have your SKUs, the UPC codes, the insurance, and several other things that essentially show that the supplier is ready to do business with retail. So that's great that you got all that done. And obviously you're doing it the right way because you're getting buyer attention. So then I'm sure you probably got a call from ECRM or an email from ECRM not too long after you signed up with RangeMe. Is that how you found out about us?
Yeah. So, I had that itch for, the retail space at this point. I'm checking RangeMe every day, looking at who's viewed my profile, trying to, submit my brands to these buyers to get traction. And then I got a email from Tyler, which is my rep for ECRM, the guy that manages the grocery department. And he said, hey, I'm Tyler with ECRM. We actually own RangeMe, and we have this cool summit where you can come and meet buyers. And this is pre-pandemic, by the way. So he said, you come to Chicago, and then you come to Las Vegas, and you spend a couple of days with these buyers, and you meet them in person, and you're even in the same hotel as them. So, obviously at this point I had that itch for the retail space, and it sounded very exciting. So I began the negotiations with Tyler, got signed up, and pandemic happens. All the shows are canceled. Summit is canceled. I'm super disappointed because, I was really excited to come and meet these buyers for the first time. And granted, I've never at this point met a retail buyer face to face ever in my entire life. So it was, something we were ready to do. It was still very, I was definitely nervous, but I was excited for the experience. And then when the pandemic happened, it put a halt to everything. So I was super bummed out, but, I'm a firm believer in the whole process of things. And I figured, when the timing is right, it'll work itself out. And then ECRM, which I have to give credit where it's due. You guys had that portal up and running. It seemed in almost like 30 to 40 days after pandemic happened. It was nuts.
Actually, good timing. It was 6 weeks. So, so your estimate was right on.
Yeah. I remember calling Tyler saying, "Man, what's going on? I had my tickets to Chicago already booked, and I was ready to wheel and deal." And he said, "Yeah, we have this portal launching in a few weeks. We'll see how it goes." And then, and in 6 weeks, you guys had that portal launched, and Tyler kind of walked me through this whole virtual thing that you guys were going to do for the first time.
So the first one you did was the efficient supplier introduction, right? Because that was what we launched before the platform, right? With the one to a panel of retailers.
So yes and no. So actually, it wasn't part of the plan.
Okay.
We were signed up for a program at this point. I believe we were in maybe April. Or I'm sorry, May. We were in May, and we had signed up for the beverage program in August, so after the summer. So we had about 3 months. We were about 3 months out from the program, and the first week of June comes, and I remember receiving an email from Tyler saying, "Hey, we have this ECI," and in this week it was Wednesday, and Tyler goes, "Sorry, I know this is last minute, but we just got a opening for this ECI event, ESI event, sorry, in on Friday." And I said, "Friday of this week?" And he goes, "Friday of this week." And I said, "Well, who's participating?" And he goes, Amazon, Aldi, and he started naming a few others. And when he said Aldi, I was like, "Okay, done. Sign me up. I'm in. And because that's one of the people that I really wanted to do business with. So the ESI event was very last minute. It was unplanned. It wasn't, I had no presentation at the time because I thought I had 3 months to make a slide deck for these retailers. And that night I stayed up till 5 a.m. Just making that deck because I had 48 hours until my first meeting with these retail buyers, So it was very last minute, but I always find that a lot of times these impulsive, events that happen usually have the best outcomes. And that's exactly what happened.
So your experience with the ESI was very successful.
Yeah, so I guess the best way to describe it is it's kind of like an episode of Shark Tank where you walk in and they're all sitting there, virtually this time, but instead of a one-on-one meeting, the ESI was different because it was, and again, new experience for us because it wasn't part of the plan. We were thinking one-on-one meetings with the beverage buyers, and ESI comes around again, super last minute, about 48 hours before it happened. We got signed up and had that presentation done, and I guess that's the best way I can describe it. Is it felt like I was pitching to a bunch of shark investors. And I remember, sitting in the conference room with my presentation. I rehearsed it like 100 times maybe. And, my turn comes up. They all enter the Zoom call, and, Dylan, which was my ECRM rep that was helping me with the ESI event, hops in and he walked me through it a couple minutes before and said, "Hey, I'm going to introduce you and just start." So I remember it all like it was yesterday, actually. And it was June 6th is when it happened. And Dylan hops in, and then all of a sudden I see all the buyer names start filling in the windows, and Aldi and Amazon and all these guys. And I was nervous, but I went right into it. I introduced myself. I walked through the presentation. I was very nervous. I remember I kept moving my chair. When I went back and watched it, I was like, man, you could see I was nervous, and I had, I've gotten a lot better from, if you look at my later ECRM events to the first ESI event, I think you can see I was definitely very nervous on that first event. And I remember after the ESI event, I shot out emails. I couldn't, it was all, first of all, I was over the moon. I couldn't believe just the opportunity to sit in front of these buyers. I was very grateful for, and it was very new for me. And I remember having a moment thinking, wow, like I really just sat in front of these retail buyers. And I know in this industry that's very normal, but it was very new to me. I never would have imagined being in a position like that. So it was definitely, surreal. And I remember sending out those follow-up emails, and I remember thinking to myself, like, do I send an email right away? Do I wait a day? It was Friday when it happened. I was like, do I wait till Monday? I have no, I don't know the etiquette of this industry, and I was overthinking it. So I said, okay, I'll wait till Monday. So I waited till Monday. I could barely sleep that weekend. I already had those emails in my drafts ready to send out. Monday morning comes in, I send out follow-up emails to the 10 buyers that I sat with. And Aldi was one of the first people that came back to me, Nick, the buyer that sat in during the meeting. And he gets back to me and says, "Hey, I'm interested. I would love to try some of your products." And at this point, I was showcasing, the aloe drinks, our coconut milk drink, which was a very hot segment. And we're one of the only players in this segment right now. We're one of the bigger players as well. So I was confident in the product. It was really just more, was I confident in my ability to showcase the product? Because I knew the product was good.
Yeah.
I just needed to get it on the buyer's desk. And, Nick requested samples as well as some of the other guys. And I remember sending out those samples the same day, rushing to the warehouse and having my warehouse guys make the cases. And I sent him some samples, and a couple of days later, his assistant gets back to me, and her exact words were, "Nick loved the samples. We would love to explore this opportunity." And I remember, rushing over to my dad's office. I think he was on a phone call or something, and I bursted in like, they love the product, and I was over the moon. And it was definitely a moment I'll never forget, running into my dad's office saying, like, a retail, like, I was showing him an email with the Aldi handle on the bottom saying, like, look, this is an email from Aldi, the Aldi. And it was definitely a fun experience going through all those, like, it was a new experience, let's put it this way. I'll never forget it.
So now where are you at with them?
So at that point, we had sent samples. Like I said, definitely different experience from the independent market. I think this all happened in June. And for almost 3 months, back and forth, they'll request samples, we'll send samples, and then wait a few weeks, and I'd be following up like every other week, sending, every 6 or 7 days, sending an email, asking for a follow-up, an update. And, you know, I want to say by maybe October, they said, hey, you know, we have one final review. At this point, I had sent like maybe 3 or 4 cases of samples. They kept requesting more samples, and I was more than happy to send it.
So different people were looking to
yeah,
try.
They were, I guess, internally reviewing it. And then I remember October comes around, or, you know, towards the beginning of October, I get, you know, an email saying, hey, we have, you know, one final round of reviews with, you know, our corporate guys, and the head of our division is flying in, and can you send more samples? I said, absolutely. So I remember sending the samples, you know, with, you know, prayers and hopes that this goes through. And, you know, they received them well. I waited that week. They told me the day that they were going to try it. So I'm on the edge of my seat. And then the end of that week, I get an email from Nick's assistant, Michelle, saying, hey, Nick is going to call you on Monday. No context, no anything, not you're in, nothing. Saying Nick is going to call you on Monday. So at this point, I'm thinking he's just going to let me down easy because we've been going back and forth for 4 months. I don't know what to expect. So a very restless weekend. I was thinking about it all weekend, and Monday comes along, and Nick is in California, so he was 3 hours behind him in Florida. So I remember at 11 a.m., I remember seeing that phone ring, the Aldi caller ID. Our assistant passes him through. I put him on speaker. Me and my father, my CEO, were there. And, you know, we're trying to play it all cool. I don't know what to expect. So I'm like, hey, Nick, how's it going? And he goes, I'll never forget it. He goes, hey, I got you through the gauntlet. You're in. And I remember thinking, wow, like this is crazy. And I had to keep it cool and composed. I was like, oh, wonderful, great news. And I'm over here. I can't even put into words the reaction I felt on the inside, and kind of that it was definitely a surreal moment as well, because, you know, my father never would have imagined being in this kind of position to work with somebody such as Aldi. And I remember the second we got off that phone call, it was a very quick phone call. He said, hey, you're in, and my assistant will send you the next steps. Have a great day. And I said, you too. And I hung up the phone, and I shook my dad's hand, and he said, congratulations. And I said, congratulations to you too, man. And that's kind of, you know, that was the first time that I felt from start to finish that we made it happen. And we started from the first initial meeting to samples to, you know, follow-up calls to you're in. And it was awesome. I have to say, it was definitely a thrilling experience. That's the best way I can put it.
Well, that's great. And I'm glad you shared it with us, because I'm sure there are a lot of suppliers in a situation now where they're doing this for the first time. So to hear actually the bits and pieces that you went through, and how many emails did you have to do, and the waiting and the back and forth, and, you know, it's good for them to know.
Yeah, it was almost like I was kind of just, because I was overthinking it a lot in the beginning, you know, because of the amount of, you know, the opportunity there. You really want to work with these guys. And I think, you know, the best part of, or the best advice I can give is just don't overthink it. Just go through the process. I remember thinking halfway through, just, okay, I'm just gonna, you know, follow up normally. And if they request samples, I'll send it. I'm not going to think twice about it. And if I'm not in, I'm not in. And I found that was the best practice for me to do. And they would send forms, and I would fill out the forms and send them back. I wouldn't question it, wouldn't overthink it. They sent me, oh my God, like so many forms throughout the whole sample process, that master agreements and non-disclosures. And they requested, you know, certificates of insurance and all the stuff that I would send and not think twice about it. Just send it to them and you know, pray for the best. That's kind of the practice that I did.
Excellent. So now you're on the shelves yet, or is it still?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we met with them, you know, in June, and we launched with them at the end of December.
Wow, that's really fast. That's fast for mass retail. 6 months is well, it's on the shorter end of the time frame from first meeting to getting on the shelf, because it can range from months to a year to 18 months. I've heard all of them when they're dealing with mass retail. So that was great from the ESI meeting. And fast forward from the ESI, you went to now you finally got your face-to-face meetings, right?
Yeah, at this point we had already done our face-to-face, and the ESI again wasn't even planned, and we ended up getting, you know, one of the biggest retailers in the United States out of it. So it was that, you know, can't complain. It was definitely a fun experience.
It's a good feather in your cap too.
Oh, 100%. And at this point we had already done, you know, at this point we had gone through the beverage and ethnic programs that we had initially signed up with for ECRM. This was the one that we were supposed to meet in person. And
gotcha.
We had already paid for it, and And, it's funny because the real reason, one of the main reasons why I signed up for ESI was I said, well, hey, it'll be good practice for the beverage program. This way, at least I'll pitch in front of some guys, a couple months out, and I'll know what to fix and what not to fix. But it ended up, I got one of my biggest accounts out of that ESI meeting.
Yeah, that's great. So the beverage program that you did, that was after the ESI.
Yeah, that one was in August of that same year, a couple months after, and we met with. We met with a lot of people because it was actually we were in two programs at the same time, so the meetings were kind of spread out, and the ECRM team did a fantastic job kind of scheduling our meetings to where they really did it all for us. Where all we had to do was just show up and be ready to do business, and that was really nice. I guess that was a really nice point about working with ECRM is that they kind of made it almost seamless. The login credentials were provided to me. I was walked through what to expect, and really, like I said, we just showed up. Buyers would jump into that, and this what was different about this one was that ECRM had their own portal at this point. So the ESI we did through Zoom, which half the world is using right now. And this one was a little different, this beverage program, because ECRM had their own portal at the time through the market gate. And, it was cool because we had all our products like floating on the side of the meeting, and we had the Range Me Verified badge up on the top. So this one was a little different, and it had a little section for comments and a portal where you can go in and see your comments after. So it was very, very, well put together. Let me put it that way.
Awesome. Well, we built it. Now the ESIs are done on the ECRM Connect platform. So we've actually, we do both now on there. We started on Zoom while we were building the platform, and then once we built it, now both the sessions and the ESIs are on the same platform. So
exactly.
What was your meeting experience like? How did you prepare for your buyer meetings in the, on the ECRM Connect platform?
Well, the ECRM platform had, I remember if I recall correctly, it had a prepare section, actually, literally a button that says prepare. And when you click it, it walks you through your agenda for that week, the information on the buyers from their name to their phone number to even what they're looking for in that program. So, because from my understanding, they actually view your profile and they even put notes on what to expect or what they're looking for. So really, I at this point, I was in the habit or in the belief of not to overthink these things, and obviously to do my due diligence, but I never overthought it. So I would review the meetings for that week, look at what they're looking for, keep it in mind, and then I would just be myself, and talk about my products. And I really do believe that I have a fantastic portfolio of beverages. So, the buyers would hop in, I would, break the ice with a joke about how we're not in person anymore, and then they would tell me about how they love working from home now, and we would dive right into it, and I would show the product, and they would ask questions, and it was, I believe there were a few different timing options, and we were in the 10-minute one, which was oddly enough just enough time, because I felt like 20 minutes for this kind of program, I felt like would have been really too much time, because you can get it all out within 10 minutes, and the 5 would be almost impossible. I don't know, but for at least for my portfolio, because we had so many beverages to go through, so the 10-minute one was a really nice time frame to work with.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you 5 minutes is good if you have a single product. If you're just launching, boom, you have several, but not an overwhelming number, so you could do it in 10 minutes, still leave some room for Q&A.
Yeah, we had we were going over about 6 product lines through that in that ECRM. So I'll be honest, I remember that first two meetings, I believe, I basically didn't have enough time for really questions. I took up almost the whole 10 minutes talking about the presentation.
Yeah.
But I adapted quickly. I figured out how to word my sentences and get through the products in an efficient manner. And now I'm like, my record time is 4 minutes to get through all 6 product lines and leave room for questions without talking too fast, right? So you get better at it. By the 3rd or 4th meeting, I had caught my stride, and we were just sailing smoothly through the meeting. So
well, that's something I would always tell suppliers. Even when we were doing this in person, is the more of these you do, the better you get at doing them. Yeah. And that's important too, because you'll see there's a flow to the conversations, and you'll get used to dealing with different types of people.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you used all the tools too, the notes and
Yep.
the rankings and all that.
Yeah, we had our thing full, or had our profile fully optimized. So we had all our products, like I mentioned, on the featured tab where they can the buyer can click on it and see the information, like the nutrition facts and the barcode and all that good stuff. And we were taking notes actively throughout every meeting. And it was nice because at the end of the meeting, the buyer can mark if they were interested or not. So it was easy to keep track of, who was interested in me, what are my notes for this account. And after that, even what's nice is even till today, I can go back and see those notes, and I can even have access to all of those buyers' contact information, so their emails, their phone numbers. So it's really, it was definitely a great experience working through this beverage program. Even after ESI, I still really was new to it and had to catch my stride quickly. So the beverage program that we attended was definitely, we met with, I believe, 43 vendors with the two programs combined. I remember it was all day. So we would start at, I think, either 10 a.m. our time, and there were breaks in between, and it was just back-to-back meetings. So 10 minutes and then boom, it cuts off and you're into the next one. So it's kind of just definitely took a lot of resilience in a sense that we had to be sharp in every meeting and do it again. So you have to get through it and be sharp and on your toes, and the next meeting do it all over again, and then do it all over again. So, but it was fun. Overall, it was fun. And the best advice I could give that I kept telling myself was, they're just people. They're just people that are working just like you. They're interested in meeting you just like you're interested in meeting them. And that was the kind of the affirmations I was giving myself as I was going into these meetings.
Excellent. And now you're in the follow-up stages with some of these buyers, right?
Yeah. And one of them that we are looking forward to launching this year that we met in the beverage program is BJ's. If you're familiar with BJ's, they're a wholesale club that you can kind of go in and buy your product in bulk. And, we have a bunch of them here in Florida, and we met them in the beverage program. Kaylee's the buyer, Kaylee and David, very nice set of buyers. And they were very fun to talk to, and follow-ups was fantastic. And one thing I learned with this whole experience as well is when you get into the holiday season, it gets pretty crazy, right? So we were coming out of August stepping right into about the holiday season, and I noticed that all of the buyers that I was meeting with were interested, but they said, hey, reach back out to me at the end of December, or reach back out to me first week of January. So, but out of that meeting, we have a lot of stuff in the works, in the pipeline, still in negotiations, but we will be launching with BJ's May 1st.
Excellent. And yeah, it's again, I think that's important for people to know, is that holiday season, the buyer's going to tell you when to respond. They're going to say, send me samples in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks or a month. And you got to stick to it. Because they get busy, and and a lot of buyers' schedules were kind of thrown out of whack. Yeah. From the pandemic, where people from different categories were helping the essentials categories. Exactly. They weren't doing their own jobs. So it's been a really strange year for everybody. So so tell me a little bit, as a salesperson, virtual. Where do you see virtual playing a role as we move into the future? Because like you mentioned before, the buyers are embracing it completely. So do you see it as a bigger part, just going, even when the pandemic's over?
Absolutely. I think the virtual, so I think it was inevitable. I think this was going to happen maybe, 10 years from now. We were all going to be on virtual, just because, in my opinion, it makes sense. I think with this pandemic, although it's unfortunate that the whole world went through this, I think it excelled us in a sense that it forced us to really adapt and embrace the power of the internet, really. I mean, we met with 43 buyers from all over the United States, even some in Hawaii and a couple in London and in the UAE, all from the same desk in that same week. So, I think it's definitely innovative, and it's a fantastic way to meet buyers and really, obviously, a lot of them, we did hear that it's not the same as face-to-face, and that, sometimes having that product right in front of you definitely helps, and having them pick it up. But I think, honestly, with nowadays, with technology and shipping, I mean, we would send out samples, they would get it that same week, and we would just follow up then. So I think, to answer your question, I think virtual definitely takes some getting used to, but I think it's the future of our industry. And I think it's a fantastic way to meet people and network and And I mean, just like how we are now, you're in New York and I'm in Florida, and we're here doing this meeting.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting that even for food categories, where typically there's a tasting and you know, virtual is still not getting in the way. It's you could still send the samples. They're still getting to try it. And I don't know, my thoughts, just from based on what I'm hearing and what I've been seeing, is I think even when the pandemic is done and it's all well behind us, I still think like those initial meetings, those introductory meetings with a buyer are always going to be virtual first.
Oh yeah,
you know, because they could just get so many more done.
Yeah, it's funny because the buyers all loved it. I remember every single buyer, all those 43 buyers, you know, because we would have a little bit of small talk, and every single one of them loved that it was online. I remember the HEB buyer out in Texas, Fernanda Lucarelli. I remember we had a great conversation about it, and she said, "Oh, you know, I'm a mother and I have kids and I have dogs, and I can, you know, I can do both. I can parent and I can, you know, I can still get what I need to do done. I just step into the home office and I get it done." So you know, the buyers definitely embraced it, and really the suppliers, it's on the suppliers to really, you know, streamline that process for the buyers as well.
Actually, that's a great comment. That's a really good comment.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and insights, because, like I said, there's a lot of you know, new and emerging brands out there that are new to this experience, and it's good to get your perspective on it. And I definitely look forward to seeing you at one of our future virtual sessions.
Absolutely. I'm an avid, after that experience, I'm an avid ECRM attendee. So whether it's going to be in person moving forward or virtual or both, you can definitely expect to see me attending these events. And, you know, it's definitely a fantastic platform and way to meet and network with suppliers. So it's, you know, I actually, you know, I owe a lot of thank you to ECRM for really changing the way we do business, especially in my office. So it's been a fantastic journey, and I look forward to growing with it. And I thank you for your time, Joe.
Excellent. You take care.
You have a wonderful day, and take care. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye.